I've developed this technique which I call observe, don't absorb. I developed this over my own need to understand my relationships with narcissists, as well as my work with my clients over the last 26 years. It's influenced by a saying by George Bernard Shaw, and he said, never wrestle with a pig. You get dirty, and besides, the pigs like it. And in other words, codependents always lose the fight with their emotional manipulator. And I help them understand that. I help them understand that when they get into the ring or they start wrestling with the proverbial pig, they will always find themselves more powerless and disadvantaged because the emotional manipulator thrives on control and power. The emotional manipulator wants to pull the codependent into their conflict, into their argument, because that is where they know how to change, how to influence people, and how to get them to back down or give them what they want. The codependent has to learn that when they are brought into the emotional manipulator's world, it's analogous to ingesting toxins. Because what happens if we should drink something that is toxic, we're going to get sick. So if we look at this and we think that, well, we are not going to let the emotional manipulator bring us into their world, because when we do that, we lose our emotional control. So I suggest to my clients to think of it as a toxic environment that if you get involved in, you've lost your perspective of self-care. Codependents are controlled when they are pulled into the EMM's emotional altercations. Too tough of adversaries. They're always going to win when they are pulled into their argumentative, aggressive, and manipulative world. So the observe, don't absorb technique allows the codependent to maintain control. And I call it observe, don't absorb, is I teach my clients to artificially detach from the client, from the narcissist. When they observe the narcissist, when they are watching the narcissist, when they are watching the alcoholic, they're not connecting affectively or emotionally. So they are observing. But when they absorb, that means they are participating in this dysfunctional dance of sorts in which they have lost control, and they are not in an environment in which they can defend themselves and set boundaries. So essentially, it's conscious or healthy disassociation. It's purposeful emotional detachment. It helps neutralize EMM's power and control over them. So if we use the observe, don't absorb technique, we don't let the emotional manipulator get under our skin. We don't absorb the toxins. We don't get pulled into their emotional world and become a victim of it. We understand that to get pulled into it, it's like poison. It's okay to look at poison. It's okay to pick up the poison bottle, but don't ingest it. Don't let it get inside of you. Respect its pathological power. So these are some examples or instructions that I use with my clients who use the observe, don't absorb technique. First of all, I talk about the wrestling with pigs saying, and usually my codependent clients love that because it really makes sense to them. I explain that when they are able to practice observing, not absorbing, it gives them home field advantage. What I ask them to do is pretend during these interactions with the emotional manipulator that they're an observer wearing a white research coat, and they're watching borderline. They're watching the emotional manipulator. And if they can disconnect and see it from an observation point of view, they are not emotionally connected. I ask them to observe with curious and wonderment. I ask them to watch their emotional manipulator and see how dysfunctional they are, how manipulative they are. I ask them to think about how incapable the emotional manipulator is to manipulate them if they don't react. Watch and listen is the key instruction to my codependent clients, and don't react. Imagine you're watching an instructional video I ask them to imagine that they're looking at a video that depicts a narcissist, and they watch it as they're watching the video unfold and seeing typical symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder. I ask them to pay attention to the strategies, the manipulative strategies that the EMM uses to try to pull them into their own, into the fight. I ask them to look at the person from head to toe, look at them and watch their facial reactions, watch their body posture, that the more they see them as individuals with psychological problems who are trying to manipulate them, the more they can step outside of their reaction to them and just observe them, the more power they have. I ask them to identify what that person is doing in real time, is to actually tell themselves, what is he or she trying to do now in order to get a reaction to me? And the more that they can answer that question, the more they can keep neutral and keep from absorbing the emotional manipulator's toxins. I suggest that they say to themselves that they are strong and in control, and that they keep saying over and over again, like it's a mantra, observe, don't absorb. Observe, don't absorb. Because if I absorb, I will fall prey and become a victim. If I absorb, they can control me. But if I observe, I'm in control, I don't get upset, and my boundaries are solid. I also, I ask them to respond, is not to respond emotionally. Keep their tone even, keep their volume even, and breathe deeply. It's important that if you're going to stay detached, if you are going to stay relaxed, if you're going to not give the power to the emotional manipulator, is to stay connected to your body, to recognize that to let go of this control will bring stress, a wave of anxiety, to bring the toxins in. To say to yourself, to recognize how powerful detachment is, and to be proud of how healthy you are, to acknowledge what you are gaining by staying disconnected. So I thank you for coming to this webcast. More information can be found on thehumanmagnetsyndrome.com or through my book, The Human Magnet Syndrome, Why We Let People Hurt Us. Thank you, and have a great day.